Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I know it's been more than a week since my last episode, and it's been quite busy on the farm here with spring coming. We've got baby chicks and more milk than you could shake a stick at, I guess they say. So much milk, so I've been making kefir and yogurt and butter and we've been getting our gardens ready and raised beds ready. And I think I mentioned this on the last episode, but I've composted probably, it's got to be at least 7K pounds of Rose's compost, her cow manure, in the past few weeks. So that was a good workout. If anybody is concerned about working out and staying in shape and staying active, I recommend farming because it's so much activity and things you have to do every day to tend to the animals and their shit and their manure and the gardens and shoveling and carrying things and raking things. And I mean, honestly, I think that the development of gymnasiums and going to work out at the gym very much correlates to and coincides with our indoor lifestyles. And as we started to move away from farming, also after World War II, we wanted to, really do something that matters. Not that other things don't matter, because believe me, they do. I have a lot of other things I do besides farming, and a lot of I respect the work that people do in the world that are trying that in a way that they're trying to help people move forward and the world move forward in a positive way. But what I'm saying here is that since the Industrial Revolution, we've gone away from farming, and like our mindset has gone a total opposite direction, as like, okay, let me work a job and be industrious. But then we like work a job where we sit at a computer, or we live in a more urban area, and so there's just less land to tend to. And it doesn't take that much land, to be quite honest. You don't need hundreds of acres to get your workout in on a farm. We currently have 5 acres, and I will tell you that is plenty of land to get a workout. Even if you have 1 acre, even if you have half an acre, that's plenty of land to get a workout in. Even if you have quarter of an acre, seriously. But we have gone more to like, okay, I have to go to the gym, I have to work out, because our lifestyles are less centered around movement and they're more centered around sedentary jobs and lifestyles and so forth. And so I would tell you right now, I don't even have energy to go to the gym. Like a couple weeks ago, one of our friends asked Jen if she wanted to go to Zumba, if Jen wanted to go to Zumba with her, and Jen was like, oh, fuck no. I don't have any energy to go to Zumba because we do so much here on the farm every day. It's like a built-in gym membership that doesn't have any fake light and has like lots of sunshine and fresh air. So I highly recommend it. That was a little bit of an aside, but a lot of people are obsessed with getting in shape. And I remember maybe like, gosh, 3 or 4 years ago, we were in Sedona and we were living in Sedona at the time, and which is a fuck show area to live in. Please don't live in Sedona. I mean, it's just my recommendation. If you're looking to live somewhere healthy with low EMFs, it's not Sedona. They have millions of people. It's such a tourist trap, and they have millions of people go to that area, and all their cell phones and so forth are just they just blast that area. But anyway, we lived there for a period of time when we were living in New Mexico and the pandemic hit, and we were like, oh my god, what is going on here in New Mexico? These people are absolutely insane. They're putting booties on their dogs to go hiking because they don't want somebody's like maybe somebody spit on the ground and they don't want that saliva to get on their dog's paw and walk in the house and transmit C19. People went just off their rocker. But this was this was Santa Fe, in the area we were living in. We had lived for like, I don't know, 10 plus years. And it was like, nope. We moved. So we moved to Arizona temporarily. We're like, maybe we should just stay, but we ended up not staying, but we went to Sedona, and we lived for a while on this really cool house that was on the creek. And by creek, it was more like a river. It was, wide. It was at least 10 or 15 feet wide, very much moving, rushing, y- there was a lot of rocks. It was very slippery in areas. And so my dad came to visit once, and our neighbor had just cut down all these dead trees across the river from us. And so there was all this firewood over there, right? At least that's what I was thinking. This is what my dad was thinking. And so my dad was visiting. He's like, or one morning we're like, oh, we're gonna go for a hike. And my dad is definitely not a hiker. He will walk miles upon miles to go elk hunting, deer hunting, turkey hunting, and he will walk miles to do that. But hiking, never. He will never. He's not the person who's just gonna like go for a hike. And I also think this is more of a modern thing, because when we lived in Sedona, we didn't have animals, we didn't grow anything, we didn't have a farm. So what you have to think of things to do for physical activity, right? It's like, well, to stay active, what do you do? Well, you go hiking, right? I mean, that's like a very common thing. You go to the gym, which is I don't like the gym. Jen is definitely will never go to the gym. Um, so hiking was our thing. We was like, we're gonna go hiking for a little bit, and my dad looked at me and he goes, your energy would be used much more wisely if you learned, figured out a way on how to get that wood from across the creek over to your side so you could burn it as firewood this winter. And I was like, yeah, you know what? You're right. And most people don't think like that. And at that time, because my life was not, um, it wasn't centered on farming and tending to the land, and we knew it was a short-term place. I wasn't like, how can I get this firewood from x from this point to this point? And for my dad, if he and us growing up as kids, if we didn't have firewood, our pipes would have frozen. We would froze to death. We had no central heating in our house growing up. Zero. None. And, my wife Jen grew up in Phoenix, and she's like, oh my God, like, I can't even believe you guys didn't have heat. And, it was, we had heat, and it was a wood burning stove, and it was a massive wood burning stove. It was this huge Vermont castings wood burning stove. And my dad owns a lot of land and wooded land in upstate New York, where I grew up. And so every summer and fall, we'd go cut down dead trees, harvest the wood, bring it back to the house, split the wood, stack the wood, cords upon cords upon cords of wood to heat the home in the winter. And so, to my dad, who he grew up that way, I grew up that way. But then of course I wasn't living that way for while we were in Sedona, definitely not. It's not the like rough and tough, let's get into the land and do some farming and like chop some wood kind of area. Like I did that while I was in Sedona, and people looked at me, and our neighbors looked at me like I was literally nuts. They were like, "Oh my gosh, like you guys all right?" So um but anyway, what I'm getting to is we don't have this mindset like, oh, how can I use this resource like that's in my backyard to benefit the land, to benefit me, because that firewood, that dead wood sitting there in the land, that's a huge fire hazard. That's a massive fire hazard. And especially with how wildfires are going today, and especially in Arizona, But really, anywhere, everyone is at risk of wildfire because of so many reasons: the satellites, the high EMFs, the cell towers, the desertification that's going on, the monocrop farming. All of this is fueling more and more wildfires. So you don't want hardwood, you don't want wood sitting on your land, because it's a real hazard with regard to wildfires. So, but we don't think this way. We're not like, okay, how can I position these rocks to make the water flow differently so that this area of my land that like is total shit and always is, you know, dead and dying, get more life? Or how do I get that firewood across the creek so I can heat my home and lower my heating bill over the winter, right? So when I went to Sedona, it's like those thoughts went out of my head because it is not a wild place. The landscape, yeah, sure, it's fucking beautiful. But people want to, talk about crystals and um white people doing shamanic journeys and this sort of thing. So and people want to go hiking. They don't want to think about how do you get firewood across the creek. But um it was really, I was like, I've thought about that for ever since my dad said that to me. And I'm like, I really appreciate that mindset because it is so it's missing today. And our brains don't even think in this way anymore. We don't think in this way anymore. And there's a lot of rewiring that needs to happen because the land needs our brains to be rewired so it can be healthier. Our animals need this. We need this. Our kids need this, so forth. That was a little bit of an aside to say before I dive into the episode here about Iris. That was a little an aside on we've been busy on our farm and doing a lot of projects and getting the land and animals prepped and ready for spring and summer. It's been full on, and it's been really awesome, to be honest. The sun's been our UV index is already at an 11. So it's been really solid. So that's why I missed last week's episode. Now this summer, I can't say how it's gonna go with the podcast. I'm gonna aim for every week, but it may be every other week. So we're just gonna see, because this is a very busy time of year for us on the farm, and especially this stage in our farm where we're still, man, the projects are always endless, I think, on a property and farm, but since we're just getting started and the previous owners just didn't use the land or the property, and they use it as vacation home and as a trash pit in some areas, where it's taking us time to bring the soil, the health of the land, the forest, to a better state. That being said, I am all in for you guys with the podcast. I love doing the podcast for you all. And I'm going to aim for every week, but if I go to every other week this summer on, for some weeks, know that the farm is calling me and that's where I am, but I will always continue with the podcast for you all. So today I want to talk about your circadian biology and how to protect it when you're on your computer. And I want to specifically hone in and focus on a blue light blocking software program called Iris. And I'm going to just preface this entire episode right up front to say that I have no affiliate connections with Iris. They have no idea who I am. I get $0 from them. I have no idea who owns the company, and I'm not making a dime off of Iris in any way, shape, or form. I want to present this topic to you all because for the past several years, I've been using Iris on my computer, and it has made a significant positive impact on my physical and emotional well-being. And it also allows me to write and work and do things like record this podcast without getting blasted with artificial blue light while I'm doing so. So it has been really supportive to me. My wife uses Iris. I show all my ancestral diet clients how to use Iris. I teach my students how to use Iris because it's literally one of the most affordable forms of healthcare, with a very high return on investment with regard to health. Iris costs well is going to cost you about 14 US dollars. It's a one-time payment, so it's not like a reoccurring payment. So you literally go to iristech.co and you can download Iris. I think I don't know if there still is, there used to be a free version, and then there's the paid version, which is literally $14. It is worth it to get the $14. Please spend it. Please. It's like, it's well worth the investment. So during today's episode, I'm going to teach you how to get the most out of Iris software when it comes to supporting your circadian biology. And this includes things like sleep, energy levels, hormone health, metabolic health, mood, your blood sugar levels, and so forth. And I'm also going to discuss how Iris is different, um, from the built-in dark mode programs that are available now on most phones and computers and iPads and tablets and so forth. And so I'm going to talk about how it's different, the main reason there. And I'm also going to discuss how to use certain settings in Iris, because there are a variety of different settings on Iris, and I toggle between different settings depending on what I'm doing on the computer, all of which play a different role with regard to circadian biology, and how it influences that, the type of light that the settings that you put your Iris on. And so I'm going to talk about those certain settings that I use, and I'm going to teach you how to use those on your own computer. Okay. So that, depending on the situation you're in, like, for example, if you're reading a lot of content online, or if what mode should that be in? What's the best mode for that you should have Iris in that situation? What do you do when you need to make purchases or view links? What do you do during certain times of day? What mode is best, during the day or after sunset? How do you block 100% of the blue light on your computer using Iris? All of these things I will get into during this episode here today. And I'll also talk about the effect, like, why is this even important? So I'll talk about the connection between light and your circadian biology and all of these systems, your metabolic health, your hormone health, your sleep, and so forth, and what's this connection. I know a lot of you are aware of that, but I'll talk about that a bit, just so you have a deeper understanding of, hey, why is this a big deal? Why is it even like an important thing or a good idea for me to spend the $14 to put Iris on my computer? Is it really like that big of a deal? Yes, it is. It's that big of a deal. And so I'll talk about why. And I'll let's just start by saying here what's important to remember. Just piggybacking off of what I just said, what's important to remember or to consider if you're new to the world of circadian biology is that your body produces hormones and emits certain metabolic signals 24/7, right? And most people, and we've been taught that food is the key player. It's the key control arm and influencer to these signals, right? To my hormones, to my metabolic signals, right? To my gut microbiome. You can add that one in as well. And while food and diet is an important aspect of health, believe me, I am like all in. I'm all about an ancestral diet. I love cooking. Yes, but we are doing a great disservice to just focus on, hey, it's food, it's diet, it's exercise that's going to really be able to hit all these areas of our health. And while food and diet is important, it's not the main driver of how your body produces hormones or releases hormones or produces and releases metabolic signals, period. Light is the main driver of our metabolic and hormone health. And that is the absolute foundation of who we are, from our sex, from our appearance, from our um body type, from our physical features. Can you have a baby? Can you not have a baby? Right? Light is the main driver of our metabolic and hormone health. And of course, there are genetic predispositions that play a role in this situation as well. But when it comes to, hey, how are the hormones functioning? How is the metabolic health functioning? Light is the main driver of these aspects of our health. And that's something that people are just coming to understand and realize. And it's also something that a lot of people have yet to come to realize and understand. So if you're new to the world of circadian biology, it's one of the biggest take homes and aha moments that people get after when they're first learning about this, is that light, not food, and exercise is the main driver of our metabolic and hormone health. It's the main influencer, which is why iris is so important to have on your computer. And of course, that's the whole impetus to this whole episode here, is to support your health in deeper ways that may sound counterintuitive to your hormone and metabolic health, but actually have really huge, significant roles to these aspects of your health. And our physiology reveals this story very clearly with regard to light and health, light and hormone health, light and metabolic health, as the main circadian regulating hubs in the body are located in the brain directly behind the eyes. And these hubs are known as the SCN, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and the PVN, the paraventricular nucleus. And the hypothalamus is connected to these two hubs. And we know that the hypothalamus plays a huge role in hormone production and regulation, as well as metabolic health. So anyone out there who's listening, who struggles with a hormone imbalance, I'm talking PCOS, infertility, debilitating menses, mood swings, whatever it may be, these are, of course, those are just a few, will benefit greatly from improving their light environment. I mean, this is an aside, but you know how I just like to sling things in, just like throw them in on the side. But also, if you have a copper IUD, please get that removed, because it's going to influence your hormones in a debilitating way as well. That can be a block to healing. That can be a block to hormone and health improvement. Okay, anyway, that was an aside, and you're probably like, wait, but I just wanted to throw that in there. You'll Google things and it'll tell you that those are safe and fine and so forth, but they're not. Okay, that's a totally different subject for a different day, but I had to throw it in there. So, because if you have a copper IUD and you go out and you get more sunlight, yeah, you might feel a little bit better, or you might feel like the same. And that could be because the copper IUD is a block to healing. Now, that being said, any type of hormone, exogenous hormone therapy that you're putting into your body. Maybe you take a shot for birth control. Maybe you take a pill for birth control. Maybe you take hormones. Maybe you take testosterone. Total blocks to healing. Absolute 1,000,000%. Now, I do have some clients who are on hormones, and they're not as suppressive as some of the other prescription drugs because the body makes them, but they still are going to have an impact, and your body's not making those hormones for a reason. So what I'm interested in is, why isn't your body making those hormones, and how can we gradually work to improve that area of your health? How can we train your body to make those hormones again? And a lot of people, we want quick fix things. Like, I know all about that. Like, I want the fucking garden, to the land to be ready to grow the garden right now. people have abandoned the land out here that we now own, and it's desertified and it's fucking sand and it's like horrible quality, and you pick it up and it dissolves in your hand and no water seeps into it because people buy this land as a vacation home and they're like, oh cool, like I have a vacation home, and they do nothing with the land and they think they're doing a great thing. Well, yeah, maybe like condos and such didn't get built on the land, which is amazing. However, you've also abandoned by not using the land with animals and gardening and so forth. You destroy the land. I want the garden to go now. I want it to go in the garden now. The garden cannot go in now. In fact, the garden, for that land to be ready to hold a garden, we're talking about like minimum of 2 years. Okay, so we're trained, and I'm not like, I am definitely not removed from this as well. We're trained to like, hey, we want things right now. I need my hormones on point right now. I need my garden to grow right now. And I want my postmate right now. So that's how we're trained. But that's not how nature works. Nature doesn't work right now. Nature works in cycles and time, and if you manipulate nature, when humans manipulate nature, when humans manipulate our own biology, it's going to take time to repair, and we have to get on the train that we are in this. Everybody's body needs some sort of healing and support, and if somebody tells you that that can improve in a short period of time, unless you like chip a fingernail, like whatever, but that's a lie. That's a flat out lie. And so the same thing with hormones. If you are concerned with your hormone health and, your hormones are off and you have symptoms of that, it's going to take some time to repair that. It starts with improving your light environment. It really starts with improving your light environment. And so back to these hubs, okay? So you have the SCN, you have the PVN located right behind the eye, and these are the main circadian regulating hubs in the body. Why would they just ended up there? It's like, hey, how did they get there? They got there because the light that enters your eye sends signals to these hubs, and it tells the body what to do depending on the color temperature of the light that enters the eye. This is why a great place to start for anyone who struggles with a hormone imbalance, with a metabolic imbalance, which pretty much all diseases can fall under either one of those categories, will benefit greatly from improving their light environment, because the light that enters your eyes signals to your circadian hubs what time of day it is, and that depends on the color temperature in the sky. Now, this may seem like a minor detail. It may be like, yeah, circadian biology, circadian rhythms. People have been just throwing this term around for years. Even before circadian biology got popular, we were talking about circadian rhythms, and we had an awareness around a very I guess we just had a vocabulary around it. I don't think we really had a deep awareness around it. I know I didn't when back in the day. So the light that enters your eyes signals to your circadian hub what time of day it is, and this is a major detail, because this the color of the light really determines every single signal that's and hormone and metabolic signal and digestive enzyme that is produced in your body. Okay, because depending on the time of day, there's going to be different signals that, okay, your body receives, and there are going to be different things that happen in your body depending on the light temperature that hits your eyes. Now, the most classic example of this is seen between the relationship of cortisol and melatonin. So cortisol and melatonin are two of the body's main circadian regulating hormones. They operate opposite of each other, right? And they operate predominantly on light and dark cycles. Cortisol light, melatonin dark. And there's some iffiness in there. because we restore our melatonin levels in UVA light. We restore our melatonin levels in UVA light. Now, nobody's outside of the circadian biology world, none of your physicians and so forth, they're going to tell you that. They're going to tell you to take a melatonin supplement, which is a trap. It's a horrible idea. I am not a fan of taking hormones in any kind, any way, shape, or form, unless it's a real emergency. I'm not on board with that, because your body's designed to make them, and you can change them by the type of light you look at. You can at least start to change them. And your body releases cortisol in varying degrees throughout the day, and releases melatonin 2 to 4 hours after sunset and during the night when you sleep. Okay? But the key thing is, as your body releases melatonin during these times, as long as your light environment mimics nature, right? Our indoor light environment has to mimic what's going on outside in nature, or else then we throw all these circadian signals out of whack. And then your body goes into chaos, and your body gets inflamed, and then your genetic predispositions get activated. So let's say, for example, if you watch Netflix or scroll after sunset, the color temperature of your screen is around the temperature of noon during the summer months. That's the color temperature of your screen. When you don't have it in iris, when you're just looking at a screen, when you're looking at your cell phone, LED lights, the color temperature stays the same. It's about noon. That's reflective of noon during the summer months. So you're literally signaling to your brain, even though it's dark outside, that it's noon during the summer. And so your body's like, where's the UVB light? Like, this is what you're telling me. Where's the UVB light? And you better have, there should be a decent amount of cortisol built up in the bloodstream by noon, when you're doing your sunlight RX and when you're actually outside in sunlight, because this is how your body protects against UVB damage. It's a huge way. It's one of the main ways your body protects itself against UVB damage, by having enough cortisol in the bloodstream by the time the sun gets to its apex around noon. And so when it's not noon and it's, dark outside, but you're looking at a screen and the color of that screen is reflective of what the color would be at noon, this is a shit show for your hormones, for your metabolism, for your circadian biology, because noon is the time of day when cortisol levels are reaching their apex. And it's the time of day when melatonin release is completely paused. And so you're doing this at night, and it's the total opposite of what's going on in nature. It's the exact opposite thing. So just by engaging in this practice, looking at a screen after sunset, no matter how amazing of a diet you're eating, or how much grass-fed meat you're eating, or drinking raw milk, when we create a different light environment than what's going on outside of our door, we create serious problems with our metabolic and hormone health, because of the circadian dysregulation that this causes, that this fuels. Get this. 4 million babies each year. Right now, this number is just going to keep going up, I'm sorry to say, until it stops working, because it will stop working. 4 million babies each year are born under IVF conditions. Okay? How much IVF? You want to store your eggs, you want to fertilize your eggs, you can't get pregnant naturally. If you cannot get pregnant naturally, and I'm not saying this to be an asshole, but let's think about nature. If a deer can't get pregnant, is the deer going to try to figure out a way to really get knocked up? No. Why? Because nature will not let, this is survival of the fittest. We need to create humans that are strong and healthy. If you cannot get pregnant, this is not like a knock on you, but your body is not meant to have a baby. It's not strong enough to have a baby. It's not in the position to have a baby. And after you have a baby, what's going to happen? Well, we're gonna have issues with mood, we're gonna have issues with, and almost every single IVF situation ends in a C-section. So then the baby isn't gonna, first of all, the baby isn't born naturally as nature would have designed this conception to happen. If you cannot get pregnant naturally, you should not have a baby, period. It may sound, wow, Heather, that what a hard ass. Like that's some hard, that's intense. Well, I really want a baby though. I get that you really want a baby. However, the impact that you're placing on that baby because you can't tell your husband no, or because you really want a baby, or because you can't tell your wife no, or whatever it may be, we have to come to terms with, we cannot continue to force nature. We push against nature. We push against nature with our the way we live. We push against nature with the way we eat and the way we farm. We push against nature the way we want to try to conceive a child and get fertile. We push against nature with the birth control that we use. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect and I've never pushed against nature, because absolutely that's, you know, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we have to understand that this is going back to hormone health. Okay. This is really what we're tying in here, is going back to hormone health. 4 million babies each year right now are born under IVF conditions. This is 20 to 30K a pop for IVF. It's not cheap. First of all, it's not cheap. So if you, the people who undergo IVF, they have to have some cash. That's first and foremost. And so how many of these women, however, are taught to change their light environment, improve their sunlight exposure, and to also eat a high animal fat, high animal protein diet before dropping 30K to totally, 30K to totally up your hormones? You've done IVF, you're going to need some serious support around your hormones, because you went into this situation with deficient hormones. That's why you couldn't get pregnant in the first place. So then you get pregnant with IVF, and it's like I can only relate this to things that I understand and know and have experience with, but it's like if you have a cow and you milk the cow, and you milk the cow to death, and you milk the cow to death, and you drain its udders, and you milk and you never give the cow a rest, its hormones are going to be completely depleted, and then it's not going to have healthy offspring as you continue down the line. So we have to understand that that's the same thing in humans. So you go to the doctor and you're like, oh, I can't get pregnant, I want to undergo IVF. They're getting paid bank. I mean, like serious cash, multi-millionaire doctors here. Okay, how many are they going to tell you to go out and like get sunlight and change your diet before dropping 30K? Fuck no. No, they're gonna say, give me 30K, I'll give you a baby, and I'm also going to like totally mess up your hormones. But I don't know, do they give you even like, do they even mention that? Maybe if anybody has had IVF and they want to share, I'd be curious. Do they tell you how it's gonna mess up your hormones? But they don't tell you to use sunlight. They don't tell you to use diet. They don't tell you to change your light environment and stop looking at a screen. They just tell you, yeah, we're going to do it this way with IVF. How many people before getting liposuction or getting a tummy tuck or getting bariatric surgery, how many of these people's doctors said, hey, why don't you first spend a year changing your light environment, sunbathing, and eating an animal fat diet and a high animal protein diet before getting this surgery? Because ultimately it's a band-aid approach that will only cause more health issues in the long run. Fuck no, they're not going to tell you that. Absolutely zero, right? Okay, let's put it into perspective here. Iris costs 14 USD. Iris costs, this is the thing. People are like, oh, it only costs 14 bucks. Like, what? That's not that much. It's not going to be really like that big of a deal in my health. I'm telling you, it is. It's really going to make a major difference. If you tally up the amount of hours you're on a screen per day, and then take that per week, then take that per month, and then take that per year. Oh, it's worth it. It's going to be worth it. The Sunlight RX ebook costs $20. It costs under $20. And this Friday, April 26th, 2024, I'm going to be leading a Sunlight RX workshop, which also includes a copy of my Sunlight RX ebook for those who don't already have a copy. And during the workshop, I'm going to teach you how to use sunlight to improve your hormone and metabolic health. The cost is $37. These practices are not a one-shot deal, okay? Getting Iris on your computer, learning how to do the Sunlight RX, learning how to use sunlight to support your metabolic and hormone health. They're not a one-night stand, so to speak, which is really my worst nightmare. I've never ever had a one-night stand. I can't even tolerate the thought of that. That's me. No offense if that's you. Honestly, everybody is different. But these are practices that you can and should incorporate into your daily life to support your hormone and metabolic health for the long run, for the rest of your life, literally. As I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, you can download Iris at iristech.co, and you can sign up for my Sunlight RX workshop by visiting my site, heatharshepard.com, HeatharShepard.com, and click on the tab that says Sunlight RX workshop to register. If you cannot attend the live workshop, sign up to receive the workshop replay and a copy of the Sunlight RX second edition ebook if you don't already have a copy. Okay, so I know I digress because that's how I roll. And so let's get into Iris a little bit more deeply here and how to use this program to support your circadian biology. So first, Iris is a blue light blocking software that you can download on your computer or your laptop. At this time, to my knowledge, you cannot use Iris on a cell phone or on a tablet or on an iPad. You can't do it. I don't think that's capable of that yet. I don't know if it's going to be capable of it in the future, but you can use Iris on your computer and on your laptop. With regard to your cell phone, if you use one, I recently gave my cell phone up and I can't say that I miss it one bit. And if I didn't think it would harm the environment, I would just throw it in the forest. But with regard to your cell phone, you can watch YouTube videos on how to turn your cell phone screen red and how to toggle back and forth between a red screen and a normal display for when you need to see certain links or, whatever it may be. If you're a cell phone user, absolutely go to YouTube after this episode and learn how to do that. Learn how to turn your iPhone screen red, or whatever the other option is for the phone. Okay, I want to add in that yes, keeping your cell phones in airplane mode is very important, but I also want you to understand, sometimes I'm open and blunt, right? Especially on the podcast here, but keeping your cell phones in airplane mode is an amazing idea. Put it in a Faraday bag, right? But it's important to understand that it still emits EMFs when it's in airplane mode, okay? Of course, it's less than if it's turned on, but it still emits EMFs in airplane mode. Now, while your cell phone is turned completely off, it also still emits some EMFs. Less than airplane mode, and of course, much less than if it's on. This is why I suggest never keeping your cell phone, no matter what mode it's on, literally, even if it's off. Don't put it next to food. Don't put it next to the water you're going to drink. Don't put it next to the plants you're growing. Don't put it next to your child. Don't put it next to your bed. Don't rest it on your tummy, right? Don't rest it or put it near anything you give a shit about maintaining life and vitality in, is basically a good rule of thumb. Okay, so if you don't have Iris on your computer or laptop yet, it could be helpful if you pause this episode right now, take 5 minutes to download it on your computer or your laptop, and then follow along to my instructions here after you have downloaded it. Of course, you don't have to do that, and I know many of you already have Iris, so even if you already have Iris, this episode should help you navigate how to use it to its fullest potential with regard to your circadian biology. Okay. First, obviously you have to download the software to have it. Spend the $14, invest in it. Now, okay, you might be thinking, but can't I just keep my computer or laptop or whatever thing I'm using in dark mode? Okay, my computer's already set up, it's built in, it has a built-in setting for this. I'm not going to waste the $14, right? And so my comment to this response in question is neither Apple nor Bill Gates gives two shits about your circadian biology, and their programs are crap compared to Iris. I'm just going to say it. Again, I have no financial ties to Iris. I have no, I don't. I know it works. I know I feel better using it. I know that the people I recommend it to feel better using it. Iris, for one, has an added bonus. Here's like one for one, like you can go back and forth in different modes in Iris. So it's not just in one single mode 24/7. And I'm going to get into these modes, as we get into the episode. But there's another bonus here is that um uh Iris blocks a decent portion of the flicker that is emitted just from anything with a screen. Anything with a screen emits flicker. It emits flicker. You cannot see the flicker, right? Flicker is like the nano, this is how I describe it. It's the nano flickering of images on your screen. You cannot see these with the naked eye, right? But when your brain looks at a screen, it picks up on the flicker. It picks up on these very subtle movements. And flicker can do everything from make you nauseous and dizzy to cause fatigue and brain fog and migraine headaches to even causing convulsive movements and seizures. So you want to block as much flicker from your devices as possible, especially if you have any type of brain injury. Maybe you struggle with convulsions, seizures, epilepsy. Really, Iris, if you're going to be on a screen, this is going to be a huge support. Okay. But despite that, I highly recommend blocking flicker for your neurological health, for your brain health, just in general. And Iris helps to drastically reduce the amount of flicker that is emitted from your computer. The dark mode programs, no, they're not going to do that. They don't offer this. There's definitely not built into the computer. So for that reason alone, it's well worth downloading Iris on your computer. Okay, bottom line, forget dark mode, download Iris, your health and circadian biology will thank you. Next, after you've downloaded Iris, you want to create a custom color temperature that you can access during the day. Let me kind of rephrase this. I created a custom color temperature on Iris for my computer that I only use during the day. Because during the night they already have that program built in for you. You don't need to create something custom for the night. It's already there. What I highly recommend is creating a custom color temperature that you can put your screen on during the day. Okay? Now, what is the deal here? Because creating a custom color temperature allows you to control what color temperature your screen is. And during the daytime, we need some exposure to blue light. Cortisol release patterns are strongly influenced by your blue light exposure, period. Blue light is present in sunlight. However, it's never found by itself in sunlight. So for example, you're never going to see the sun, you're never going to receive only blue light from the sun. It is always accompanied by other colors as well, red, violets, etc. On your devices, on your screens, blue light is the predominant color temperature and is never accompanied by other colors that balance it out. So this is why blue light from sunlight is highly beneficial. It's one reason why. Blue light from sunlight also gradually builds in the sky. It's not like, boom, you're blasted with blue light 24/7. No, it gradually builds in the sky, the amount of blue light that's present. And that's really important. It's really important from a biological standpoint. And I'll get into that more. Let's say you're doing your Sunlight RX and it's sunrise, and blue light's going to be present, but it's going to be low. It's like you have a like pretend that your faucet is just blue light and you turn it on just like a little bit so a trickle comes out. That's the blue light really being released from your brain stem, from your anterior pituitary gland at sunrise. Your eyes see the sunrise. Oh, there's a little bit of blue, and it starts this trickle down effect of cortisol. If you were to wake up and instead of first thing, doing your sunrise sunlight RX, instead of doing that, you're like, oh, fuck it. I'm staying in bed today. I'm going to look at my social platforms or my email or something like this. This signal is a full on blast of blue light that your eyes receive that triggers cortisol release in large quantities, like a flood. It's like you turn, first thing in the morning, you turn that faucet on to like full blast, and here it goes. This isn't how our cortisol is supposed to be released. There are times of the day where you want that cortisol flood, but it's not in the morning and it's not in the evening. It's in the afternoon. And as you practice your sunlight RX and gradually taper your sunlight exposure, little bit more cortisol is released, and a little bit more as you get to the apex of sunlight at noon, and then more, and then more, and then more, and then more. It's like this very tapered response. So during the day, I will keep my computer screen in either sleep mode. Like right now, it's in sleep mode because I'm doing a long podcast. I'm on the computer for a longer period of time. I put it in sleep mode. I'll talk about what that is in a while. But I go back and forth during the day between sleep mode and custom mode. Now, I want a little blue light during the day, but not in extreme amounts. That's going to cause a flood of cortisol to be released from my brainstem. So I keep my screen for, for part of the day, at least when I'm on it for short periods of time, in a custom mode setting. You have to create this setting on your own, okay? So Iris has an option for creating a custom mode. For this setting, you'll have to go in and create this. To do so, go to Iris, go into settings, and you can create a custom temperature. I keep mine at 2860 Kelvin. This is well below the color temperature of the apex of sun when the cortisol is flooding into your bloodstream. It's well below that. And noon, summertime, or high altitude, like where I live, the color temperature is around 4,000 to 5,000 Kelvin. Now, if you put Iris in health mode, that is the color temperature of solar noon. Okay? I don't want solar noon 24/7, or I don't want solar noon all the time when I'm in front of my computer. I don't want that because it's not going to be, it's not, that's going to tell my body to release a lot of cortisol. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that on my computer. That's not what I want to set my physiology up for. Now, most LED lights are also around 4,000 to 5,000 Kelvin. This is why I don't have LED lights. We don't have LED lights in our house. We have amber lights, we have red lights. I have incandescents for during the day, but honestly, it's so sunny here. I don't even think we use the incandescents this winter. We didn't need to. But some areas do. If you need light during the day, use incandescent lights or halogens. Now, what does this mean? Let's slow it down here for a minute. What this means is that if your computer is just in a regular mode without Iris, or if it's in health mode, and there's some other modes on Iris that go above 5,000 K, this is going to trigger a more cortisol release because the light hits your eyes. Oh, this is the color temperature. That means release more cortisol. That means, this is going to determine what our physiology does. So no matter what time of day you're exposed to these artificial man-made light sources, whether it's from your computer or LED lights, you trigger the release of cortisol in large amounts. We want to avoid that. You want to avoid that to safeguard your circadian biology. because over time this creates hormone imbalances, it leads to weight gain, it leads to poor sleep, or like you have low energy even when you get a full night's sleep. You're like, oh my God, why am I so groggy? I slept 9 hours or 10 hours. This can be a big contributing factor. It also leads to blood sugar instabilities. We know how excessive blue light exposure leads to blood sugar imbalances because it just flatlines cortisol. Cortisol is also a main blood sugar regulating hormone. And when it's out of balance, you're going to see issues with blood sugar markers no matter how much sugar you avoid. Your blood sugar can still be off if you're looking at the wrong kind of light, man-made light. And when our cortisol levels are always elevated in this way, it also creates a state of heightened stress, and constant fight or flight signals are being released in the body. Oh, cortisol goes up when we have to fight, or flight, right? We have to fight, boom, cortisol goes up. Well, when we're always in that state, we're totally depleting our hormones, and we're totally depleting our cortisol levels. So during the daytime, I keep my iris settings in custom mode often, especially when I'm on the computer for short chunks of time. And during the summer months, I might keep it in custom mode a little bit more because outside it's lighter for longer and the light is stronger. Light changes throughout the year, but we have forgotten that because we have created indoor light sources, that allows us to do the opposite as to what our biology and physiology is hardwired to. So, custom mode, go into Iris, go into the settings, create a custom mode, and put it at 2860 Kelvin. That's far below solar noon, and it's not going to flatline your cortisol levels as some of the other, as just looking at a screen will do. Okay, so sleep mode is it's one of the options on Iris. It's probably the most frequently used mode that I use on my computer. Sleep mode turns your screen completely red. Right now my screen is completely red, and it blocks 100% of the blue light from your screen. Okay, so if you have blue light blocking glasses, you don't need them if you have that in sleep mode. Iris does it for you. If you're on your computer after sunset, if you watch Netflix or some series after dark, I cannot encourage you enough to keep your computer in sleep mode. Yes, all of the characters will be red, the trees will be red, everything's red, okay? But who cares? Like, you won't, it can take some time to get used to. You might not like it because you've been trained, like all of us, to see things full on no matter what time of day it is, right? But it honestly, it becomes really natural. Now, let's say you're really into circadian biology, you want to safeguard it, you want to protect it, you put an iris on, you want to do all these things, but your spouse or partner cannot get on board with turning the screen red after sunset when you're going to watch the Yankees or a series or laugh at memes together, whatever it is, right? Then this is the time where you save your relationship and marriage or whatever it may be, and you put your red lens blue blocking glasses on, and you'll get the same effect. That is how you navigate that situation. When I have to look at a screen for a long period of time, if I'm writing, if I'm recording, like say this podcast, if I'm having a session with a client, I will keep my screen in sleep mode, basically red. When I need to read links or to balance my blue light exposure during the day, or when I need to see a product or something I'm about to purchase, or if I have a small amount of reading or watching to do during the day, I will flip Iris to custom mode. Otherwise, it's in sleep mode. There's another mode I use as well. I'm going to tell you that in a minute. But there's three main modes that I use: sleep, custom, and programming. I'll talk about programming in a minute. After sunset, it is I keep my computer in sleep mode 100% of the time. After sunset, boom, sleep mode. Why? Outside, it's dark. There's no blue light anymore. There's none. Meaning The body's getting ready to release melatonin so I can heal at night, so my body can perform autophagy, apoptosis. It can heal, it can repair, it can get rid of broken proteins, it can repair broken proteins. I can sleep deeply, right? And you can mess this whole thing up no matter if you take the best supplements in the world, no matter if you eat the best diet on the planet, you've grown um, the healthiest food. Doesn't matter if your light environment is poor. Sunset, make you need to mimic nature. So here's sunset. Start to make your indoor light environment mimic nature. If your family is not on board, put on your red blue blocking glasses. Boom. Now, I am not a fan of reading large amounts of content online or on a screen. When I can do so, I'll print it out. Personally, I know a lot of people love Kindle. If you do you, okay? I hate Kindle, and I can just say that. If you love Kindle, we could still get along, right? But I hate Kindle. I'm never going to read a book on a screen, no matter what mode my screen is in. My brain feels tired and foggy when I do so, no matter what kind of screen I have on, no matter what mode I have it in. The bottom line is our biology is not hardwired to look at screens all day. Period. Point blank. Boom. No. It's hardwired to look far in the distance. It's hardwired to see subtle movements of animals in the forest. It's hardwired to oscillate between looking far into the distance and close up. Our vision is meant to help us detect danger, fight or flight situations. It helps us detect, hey, is this plant poisonous? Is this plant ready to eat? Is this animal ready to be harvested? Right? Is this situation pleasurable and safe? Our vision helps us with these things. This is a survival tactic. We are weakening as a species, and you're like, Heather, that's fucking over the top. But I'm telling you, this is how can we not be weakening as a species by looking at screens all day, or really getting out there and I mean, I'm not going to be an asshole about it, but that's how I think. It's like, hey, you know to survive as a species, we have to use our senses. We have to use these innate parts of ourselves that are our primal senses. And screens, they just deplete that. They don't allow for that full expression, right? If we look at any animal in nature, if we take it out of its environment where it's able to fully express itself. For example, if you take a bear and you put it into a bear park where people can drive around and just look at the bears, that bear is going to die quicker. It's not going to be living in its survival instincts. It's not going to be in its natural environment. It's not going to be eating its natural diet. It's going to die quicker. And when it dies quicker, this weakens the species over time. The same thing is with humans. If we continue to take ourselves out of our primal environment, we're weakening as a species. And we weaken as a species that that's a lot of these people's goals. And maybe that's mm, you know I know that could be intense, but I know not everyone's like, oh, that's not everyone's goal. But I think it's just everything is designed, that everything we're inundated with is designed to weaken us as a species. And you have to try hard. It's harder to swim upstream. It honestly, it's like that's kind of how some of this can be. You feel like you're going against the current, but eventually you're not going to feel that way. Eventually you're not going to feel that way, and you're going to be doing a lot of benefit for the land and your kids and future generations by doing so. So, bottom line, our biology is not hardwired to look at screens all day. It's hardwired to do these other things I was talking about. Look in the distance. Look, is this pleasurable? Is this safe? Should I fight? Should I flight? Right? By looking at a screen all day or much of the day, we literally turn off one of our main survival instincts and senses, which is the eyes. And we create all sorts of issues with our eyes, from dry eye and myopia to, even in extreme cases, retinal detachment by looking at screens too long and too frequently. Migraine headaches, you can add so many things to that list, insomnia, all these things, right? So I'm mentioning this because, yes, there are awesome ways to protect our eyes and circadian biology when we're on a screen. But I want to really emphasize um, that we need to spend less time in front of a screen and more time outside. And the benefits of this go far beyond on science and extend into our DNA and our primal biology. So, with that being said, the last thing I want to mention about Iris is when I do have to read larger amounts of content online, I will flip Iris to programming mode. So these are the three modes I only use. I use custom mode, I use sleep mode, and to a lesser extent, I use programming mode. So if I read or write during the day, I often put Iris in programming mode. Essentially, programming mode does the opposite of what we're exposed to with regard to reading and writing in our books and programs and so forth. So, all of our books have a white background and black print. When we're on the computer reading or writing, the print is black ink and the background is white. Most often, that's how it shows up. Now, there have been some amazing studies around this showing that school-aged kids, this is when the study's been done. Mostly the ones that I know have been done on school-aged kids, where they'll have a group of kids who read with a black backdrop and white lettering. And then there's another group of kids who read with a white backdrop and black lettering, right? This is the standard. This is what we all experience today. The study was done over years. And the kids who were exposed to reading with black drop and white lettering had much better eyesight. So, and there was this real connection with myopia. The kids who read just normal standard how we read today, right? The white backdrop with black lettering had a much more significant degree of myopia in particular, right? Myopia, what happens? You can't see far into the distance. Also a survival tact. If you can't see, this is like, and my eyes aren't perfect. I don't wear glasses. I should wear glasses sometime. But I don't, because I think it's a crutch for the eyes. But again, like, please, don't do that because I do that. Um, uh, yeah. Anyway, my eyesight isn't that bad, but if you're not, my wife is practically blind, so some people need to wear glasses. Just take them off as often as you can. But what I'm getting to here is that programming mode. I'll when I'm reading or writing a significant amount of content, programming mode turns the backdrop black and the letters white, the exact opposite of our books and word pages programs today. And so I already have myopia, so I don't want to put my eyes in that situation. Of course, I love to read, and all the books are printed this way, and it's like, what are you going to do? But you can put Iris in programming mode, and it will create this black drop with white lettering. And this is a great way when you have to read a lot of content to protect your eyes, especially your distance vision. Now, I always say that when I start publishing books, I'll publish them this way with white lettering and black pages. I'm not sure if they'll be a hot seller, right? But at least the people who read them will be less likely to develop myopia. Maybe that would be my hope. But anyway, I hope this episode helps you navigate Iris with more ease and insight to better support your circadian biology. And if you're ready to learn more about how to use sunlight therapeutically, or if you have questions about light, about artificial light, about sunlight, and how to navigate this in your life to support your health and circadian biology, join me this Friday for the Sunlight RX workshop. I'll see you soon.